Hello guys, and welcome back to part 2 of the how to send an email and text with Java tutorial. We're going to start off right where we left off last time, and so let's waste no time and jump right into it. In an effort to save time for this video, I already have the code that we need written down, but I'll just walk through each method and explain what everything does. Feel free to pause at any given time to write down the code that's on screen in your editor or your IDE that you're using. But yeah, so let's get started. So this is where we started off or ended off last time. We ended on creating the send message as email method. And just for a refresh, it just takes a user's email, and it does, it does what all this does right here, but it takes this email, does this, and then sends the email to the email address specified right here, right? But yeah, okay, so the next method that we want to write down would be the send email right here. So this is going to be our next method, and essentially in this method we're going to take in an email address as a string, and we're going to call this method send messages email, which is the one up here, and we're going to pass in the email address, right? So that's all we have to do for send email, and then this method will take care of the rest up here, right? And so now the next method would be we want to display carrier options, because if you're sending a text, we need to know which carrier the recipient's phone number is associated with, right? So we're just gonna print out 5 statements. We're gonna first ask for ask what their carrier is, and then we're gonna give them options, right? Pretty simple. All right, so our next method is a send text message method, and for this method we're going to take in a phone number as a string, and we're going to display our options, right? So we're going to call the method that's up here, and then we're going to get a user's input, right? So we call scanner, and instantiate that, and call that object input. All right, and so then we take the input that the user inputs and store that into user choice, right? And so then we use a switch and case statement. So if the user enters 1 and it sends an email, it takes their phone number and it adds it to the special character or carrier email address suffix. I don't know really what to call it, but it takes your phone number and adds it to that. And so if you actually send an email, because we're calling the send email method right here, but if you send an email and you include someone's phone number and their corresponding carrier address suffix, so to speak, it'll go through as a text message. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So if you click 1, phone number that's entered gets added to this, and then it sends an email, and that goes through as a text message, and so on and so forth. And then it defaults to this print statement. So if they don't enter 1, 2, 3, or 4, it'll default and print this, which tells them that they haven't selected a valid carrier or option in this case. All right. Okay, so next method is going to be a write text method, and this method takes in a message as a string, and essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to take this message and we're going to write it to our text to send document, our text file, and we're going to write it to there, and that's just it. All right, so we're going to go file text equals new file, and then we're just going to write text to send, and this is its path name since it's in the same directory. Or in the main directory, we just have to put its file name, and then we're gonna go file writer equals new file writer, and we're gonna pass in our text document or our text object. Then we're gonna go writer write message, so whatever the message that that's passed into this method, it gets written down into our file, and then we're gonna close it. Right, so now these 2 methods right here are validation methods, and we're using something called a regex, or a regular expression. And so essentially what a regular expression does is it allows you to define a pattern or a sequence of characters, and then you can test. You can compare that to what a user has inputted, or just any body of text. But we're comparing what the user inputted to the pattern that we define here, right? What's in green are patterns that we're defining, and if it matches the pattern, that means it's valid. But if it doesn't matches our pattern that we define, that means it's invalid. So just to run through this one, this is our pattern to find a valid email address. I know it looks like a bunch of gumbo, but it does work, right? So this allows us to define a pattern for a valid email address. And so if it matches the pattern, so right here, if it matches, it will return a true or false. If it matches the pattern, this will return true. If it doesn't, it will return false. Right here, we're checking if the email is null. So if the user enters nothing, it will also return false, which means it's not valid. Same thing goes right here. And actually, we can just take this, add this to right here. I know this we could change. Okay. Remove if statement. Okay, we could just remove that. Sorry. All right. So, anyways, okay. So same thing goes right here, and we define that pattern, and then this will return if the phone number that the user inputs matches the pattern right here. It will return true, otherwise false. Right. If you want to learn more about regex or regular expressions, just quick Google search regular expressions Java or any other programming language you're working in. So regular expressions Python, so on and so forth. You can find the documentation and plenty of examples on how it's done, because there's more than one way of doing things like this. Alright, so it's just a quick explanation. Alright, so now our next two methods are also going to be similar to one another. One's going to be responsible for setting the text for the email, so the body that you want to send, and then same thing for the text message, right? So I'm just going to go through one and quickly go through the other. Okay, so first we're going to get our input, right? So we're going to call scanner. This is going to collect our input. We're going to enter the recipient's email. We're going to record what they enter into a string called recipient email, and then we're going to go an if statement. If is valid recipient email. So if this right here returns true, so if it's a valid recipient email, this will return true. And if that returns true, it will go through and execute this. So first it'll print out enter message. So if it's true, if it's a valid email, then we'll collect the body or the message you want to send into this string called text, and then we'll use that to write. We'll pass that to write text, and now we'll write it to our text file, and then we'll send an email to the address in which the user specified, and it is also validated right here, right? And so then else we will print please enter a valid email, because if it's not valid, it goes to else and it tells you that it's not valid. Same thing for text message. We scanner in to get input. We ask for the phone number this time, and we also give them the required format to follow. And then we record the phone number in this variable. We check the validity by doing this. If is valid, phone number. And if it is, we're gonna print enter message here, store message in text, write the text using the text variable that we have, and then send a text message with our phone number. Right. That is again validated right here, right? And so now, and then if it's not valid, it goes to please enter a valid phone number. So very, very similar functions. Hopefully that is clear for you guys. But yeah, all right. So now our last method of this class is we're going to call this show message options, and essentially this gives the user the options to choose from, whether they want to send an email or send a text, right? And so what we can do is we scan their input. So we're going to use this to collect some more input, and then we're going to have two print statements. how would you like to send a message, and then here's their choices. One via text or two via email. And then we're going to take what they input and store in a variable called user choice. And then another switching case statement. If the user enters 1, we set text for text message, and then 2, set text for email. And then go back to these methods, right? So we go to set text. From here, it'll take care of writing the text and sending the text message, right? So that's what we have to call right here. And then default, it'll tell us to enter a valid choice, because if it's not 1 or 2, it's not a valid choice, and it'll just tell us to enter a valid choice. Alright, so now that all of that is explained, we just need to add one more method or just one method to our main class, and that's going to be the main method, which is essentially the entry point for Java. You're going to need this to start any Java application. And so in this main method, we're just gonna call our class send message by just typing in send message, and then go dot show message options, which essentially calls this, and this kickstarts everything up here. All right. So now that we have all of that, I'm gonna do a quick demonstration. Here I'm gonna pull over some code. All right. So it's essentially the same code, and so I'm gonna run this. Alright, so now I'm gonna say, actually, hold on, I'm not sure, I'm not gonna do a text. So as you can see, this the validator works because this is not a valid phone number, but I'm actually gonna enter an email, just to show that it works. Hello from Java. Alright, so it's gonna send, and it says message sent. So now I should be getting an email. May take a few seconds. I found that sending a text message is a lot faster than email, but the email still arrives fast, and which it has. So now I can open up, and as you can see, it says hello from Java, which is what I input right here. Hello from Java. Hello from Java. Ignore this. This is the email I used, but it all works. So, and then yeah. And as you can see, it says message from Java, which corresponds to, let's see, it corresponds to what we set right here as a subject, right? So yeah, it does work, and this is how you do so. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to come back for more tutorials, and have a great day.